pre and post correction overhead squat. Alright, first thing that you can see here is that the shoulders here are not square with the ground. Pretty quick and easy to draw that. Let me get it drawn out a little bit further. And about 95 degrees are not square with the ground. Post correction, of course, they are. We'll claim that they are. And you can look and see that. There we go. 90 degrees, 90 degrees. Pull it out a little further. There we go. So we're pretty much 90 degrees on the right and 94, 95 degrees on the left. Both cases. There may be some additional work that needs to be done, but it's obvious that on the left hand in the pre, Christian needed to, he had some issues with this shoulder being a lot higher than the other side. We drop down through the scroll down here. As we begin to drop, it looks like his shoulders balance out. You know, same thing happens over here on this side as we begin to drop. There we go. We see a difference. Let's get it back up to about the same spot in this. You can see another angle here that, there you go, the hands, another absolute number. This absolute number. So he's kind of shifted really. He's kind of shifted this angle from the other direction. I mean, a moment ago his shoulder was one high and his other one was the other height. And over here on this side, we seem to have made a similar drop on that left-hand side. You can tell, if you look closely, you can see that this knee down here is beginning to pronate in. If I were to draw a straight line here, you can see that that's, you know, that leg is definitely inside of that. Over here, we seem to be a little bit more straight up and down. We're not pronating into the inside of the feet. He's already, as he goes down, he's already starting to pronate. We continue to go through, and you can really begin to see the pronation happen now. Look at that. Notice how his foot and his feet, you can see that instability as he drops. I mean, it's almost like he can't hold himself in a straight up and down position. He has to shift off to the side. He gets perpendicular to the ground, but you can see how unstable that position is. And we go down on this one, there seems to be a whole lot more. Look at that. That's much better in terms of his positioning over his feet. Stability-wise, he's a lot stronger. Structurally speaking, he's got joint on top of joint instead of a joint inside. He's not putting as much pressure on the outside of his knee over here. If we blow this one up, we can see Christian's foot. There we go. Look at his feet. Draw an angle on that, and you can tell. I think this one was about 25 degrees when I did it before. Yeah, it's about 25 degrees that his ankle is, here you go. About 25 degrees, 26 degrees. Over here we were somewhere around 6 degrees. I mean, we have a really small angle. Let's do that one more time. There we go. There's our angle. And we pull it this way like that, and we're probably 4, 5, 6 degrees, something like that. So, you know, the corrections that were done made a huge difference in Christian's stability of his feet. There's no pronation. There's hardly any pronation. Again, if we go straight up from the center of this foot right here, just like that, you can tell. Wait a minute, we got to go back on that one. That was not very good. You can tell that this from there to the middle of the knee relative to his other foot. I mean, we have a 9-degree angle there. If we come straight up and down off of this one, there's none. So I would say that he has a lot of weakness in his thighs. It's probably allowing his legs to want to come in like that, as well as the fact that this is Christian's bad knee, and he's always had to adjust himself in order to be able to squat fully. He's always had to compensate a little bit. And, you know, tight hamstrings have been a problem for him. Tight gastrocs was a problem, both of which we addressed with the correctives. Tight quads is another problem. Tight glutes, he had an issue with that as well. And then we'll get back to out of this for just a second. There's one last angle we want to take a look at, which is that if you'll take a look at Christian's shoulders as he's in the full squat, the right hand side looks so much more stable, but when you look at his shoulders, whoops, let me get that angle in there. We get that angle in there like that, and we drop that angle down to the ground. You can see what that angle is 92 degrees. Over here at full squat, that same angle is 86 degrees. The reason that I see for this, because if you look at his hips here, Christian's hips at this point on his knee, on his shoulder and his hips are in alignment over here. That is not exactly true. His hips appear to be very stable right here, straight across on the other one. So what I'm seeing is that the pronation of his left leg has dropped this hip, and it has not, and it forces his whole trunk to come to one side. Not just the shoulders dropping like they did. What we have is if we drop an angle on this as we come down here, we drop straight down off of Christian's head, or straight down his midline of his body. You can easily say we make that relative to the ground. You can see an angle at the ground of about 85 degrees. When we run that same angle on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, straight through his body, and we go to a relative spot on the ground, that's 90 degrees. He's straight up and down. So I think what's happening here is that the time that Christian has spent compensating with his left leg, with the knee issues and the tightness in his muscles, Christian has he's now overcompensating, going back the other way. You can tell the rod here is actually straight up and down. The rod over here is not straight up and down. The rod's not parallel to the ground. It's parallel on the left, not parallel on the right, and his shoulders have dropped to a new angle. So I'm thinking what you've got here is an overcompensation due to the fact that our correctives actually worked. The correctives that were over here, we went from 24 to 0 to down to 4 degrees. We still got some work to do there, but we're pretty close. The stability of the legs going straight into the knee is now straight up and down. The hips are centered. The hips go straight up to the shoulders. The shoulder goes straight to the head, and he's just overcompensating. He has had a problem. He's probably got some range of motion in his right shoulder. You can kind of tell how that right shoulder is closer to his ear on the right-hand side there. And it's the same thing really over here. You can kind of tell it, but it looks like we need to go back in and do some additional corrective actions on his shoulder, probably range of motion, in order to get that right arm up a little bit higher. But aside from that, it appears that his overhead squat is much improved, and that's just in 20 minutes.